The Black Fire Devil Lord put away the jade bottle and once again urged, "Brother Luo, you should also know that it is against the rules to take out the partial corpse of the chaotic origin bloodline creature. This matter must be kept secret. These corpse materials must not be spread out." "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," Luo Feng replied. The Black Fire Devil Lord nodded and disappeared. Luo Feng held the cloth bag in his hand. Even without the Black Fire Devil Lord's reminder, he also understood the difficulty of getting this 1/10 corpse. After all, he had spent more than 100 epics in the Flame Wind Ancient Kingdom and the Thunder Ancient Kingdom to promote this matter. Although he failed, he also knew the many obstacles involved. This level of chaotic origin bloodline creatures are guarded by the emperors and monarchs. The highest ultimate strength, the chaotic origin blood creatures, are said to be the clones or incarnations of the two great ancestors guarding. They are afraid that those chaotic origin bloodline creatures will escape and cause a great disaster. Luo Feng took a step and traveled through the void, returned to the quiet room, and entered the Star Tower. In one of the floors of the Star Tower, Luo Feng released all the corpses from the bags. First came the most massive half of the hoof. This time, the hoof accounted for about half of the corpse material. The hoof was like a towering mountain, and each sharp claw was hundreds of millions of kilometers long. There was also a huge tail that was hundreds of millions of kilometers long. These two parts were relatively intact, and the rest were a lot of scales, muscles, bones, a lot of blood, and so on. The breath that hit him in the face made Luo Feng hold his breath. The body presents 24 phases life forms. This chaotic origin bloodline creature, although it is said to be at the second level God King, it is probably considered to be at the top among them. Luo Feng watched. It has low intelligence and low level, but it can still exert such strength. This body should be very close to the ultimate life form. A huge shadow was faintly condensed on the corpse. It was an endless and towering upright figure. It was staring at Luo Feng and roaring angrily. Bloodline will. Luo Feng understood. This bloodline will is not the will of the dead chaotic origin bloodline creature. It is the source of this chaotic origin bloodline, the will left by a real chaotic origin life form. Even after generations of reproduction and dilution, the will can still be transmitted through the bloodline and has a strong ability to pollute. To follow the path of chaotic origin bloodline, one must first be able to resist this kind of pollution. Although this road is full of flaws and disasters, if you can overcome all the flaws and resist all the disasters, you can still achieve great success, such as the Thunder Ancestor. The Thunder Ancestor and the Flame Wind Ancestor had captured the real chaotic origin life form and used their blood to reproduce from generation to generation in the origin continent in order to dilute their blood. Great. Luo Feng ignored the illusory impact of his will, stretched out his hand to touch the scales, looked at the dark yellow claws on the hooves, and penetrated with his consciousness to peek into the inner qualities of these substances. During his observation, matter was instantly magnified billions of times, and he could quickly see the smallest structures. Every 10 particles are fused together, tightly and inseparable, and naturally form a phase. The 240 particles are divided into 24 groups. The 24 groups of particles are entangled and rotate with each other, naturally forming 24 spaces. These 24 spaces are like a formation, closely connected to each other and constantly rotating. So beautiful. Luo Feng looked at it carefully. Although there have been detailed explanations in the 2 special inheritances, they are like 3-dimensional drawings. When the living material of the 24 phases life forms is in front of his eyes, the shock is still too strong. Perfect. What a perfect life. The most basic structure of every life contains 24 spaces. These 24 spaces are closely connected to each other, just like the combination of a formation. It is extremely difficult to destroy this life structure. Luo Feng knew the horror of this life form just by looking at it. The 10 directions world form can only be regarded as the introduction to the world life form. The 24 phases form truly reflect some of the terrifying aspects of the world life form. The path of world life form is terrifying, but the special inheritance of world life form can only be exchanged to the ultimate level at most in infinite space. Moreover, Luo Feng can exert the power of this inheritance by relying on the ability of invisible and formless. But the ability of invisible and formless can only transform the substances born in the origin continent, and the origin continent cannot produce substances above the ultimate level God King. Once you reach the ultimate level, you will eventually have to change your path. Of course, that's something to consider later. First, in the continent of origin, you must have the strength to be truly fearless of everything. Each of the 24 phases, the combination of the 6 major branches, is too perfect. Luo Feng immersed himself in it and studied it for more than 10,000 days. Suddenly, a light bulb went off in his mind, and a complete phase form naturally emerged. Knowledge gained from books is always shallow. After observing real-life materials, I finally broke through the last bottleneck and comprehended the first of the 24 phases. Luo Feng laughed. Of the 24 phases form, the first phase is the most difficult to comprehend. Because each phase is of equal difficulty, once you understand the first phase, the second and third phases will become easier and easier. To comprehend the first phase is equivalent to comprehending half of this life form. I can feel that as long as I spend some time to comprehend and study, within 10 epochs, the origin of life can enter the second-level God King. Luo Feng had such a feeling. Because of his comprehension of the first phase, Luo Feng had accumulated a lot of experience in the integration of the 6 major branches. No wonder the inheritance records that the 24 phases form are the highest level of life form that can be comprehended by the first-level God King in theory, but if you comprehend the third and fourth phases, you will naturally break through. Luo Feng was in a good mood. It is still very difficult to go from the first level of God King to the second-level God King. Many God Kings were stuck at the first level and finally chose to cultivate the chaotic origin bloodline. Even a proud God King like Jia Yin, who had not cultivated the chaotic origin bloodline, had become invincible at the first-level God King. She wanted to reach the second-level God King on her own, but it was extremely difficult to break through. When I became a God King, I mastered the 6 major branches of life. The reason why I can practice so smoothly is also related to my mastery of all 6 major branches. I have been observing the complete origin of life, and with the guidance of 2 special inheritances, I have touched the second-level God King in more than 100 epochs. Luo Feng was still very satisfied. Of course, he would not be short-sighted and rush to comprehend and break through. Every step of practice must be solid and solid, constantly honing one's own understanding. If you take shortcuts in the early stages, how will you realize the complete truth in the future? Without the reference of the Great Tao, how can one comprehend the realm above the God King? It will be too late to regret it then. Compared with the Great Tao of life origin, the accumulation of the Great Tao of destruction origin is much slower. So far, I don't feel that I can break through to the second-level God King in a short time. Luo Feng sighed secretly. Although I have taken the 5-colored precious medicine twice, the progress of the Great Tao of destruction origin has been greatly improved. But the path of life is better because it keeps on observing the Great Tao and is always faster. Now there are the 24 phase creature materials as a reference. My comprehension of the 24 phases will only be smoother. It seems that the second-level God King should be the path of life that breaks through first. Luo Feng looked at the huge amount of corpse material in front of him, and with a thought, he began to collect some of the materials. Some scales, tendons, bones, blood, a membrane on the tail, and the shortest claw. The materials collected by Luo Feng accounted for less than 1,000th of all the materials. Luo Feng put what he had collected aside, and then began to telepathically transmit. Morosa, come to Star Tower quickly. Ever since the Master said last time that there will be good news in the near future, Morosa's heart has been in turmoil, and he has been waiting for the Master's call. Go to the Star Tower? Morosa was overjoyed when he heard the telepathic message. If the Master summons me normally, he will not summon me to the Star Tower. Morosa came to the quiet room of the City Lord's mansion very skillfully, saw the Star Tower, and entered the Star Tower without any obstacles. Master. Morosa just opened his mouth and saw the towering chaotic origin bloodline corpse material next to him, especially the huge hoof claws, which made Morosa's eyes light up. What is this? What is this? Morosa's voice was trembling with excitement. Swallow it. Swallow it. As a world beast, it instinctively desires to devour the huge amount of corpse material in front of it. This is about 1/10 of the corpse of a chaotic origin bloodline creature. Luo Feng said, in terms of the strength of the body, it far exceeds the normal second level of God King stage, and even has some characteristics of the ultimate realm life form. I can feel it, Morosa muttered as he watched. As long as I swallow it, I will definitely be able to break through. I will become much stronger. I spent almost all the treasures I had accumulated since I came to the origin continent, and even owed some favors to others before I got this part of the corpse. Luo Feng smiled at Morosa. Morosa, I have paid too much for you. Luo Feng was also joking. He made such great efforts, first of all for the cultivation of his own 24 phases. Of course, in essence, of this 1/10 of the body of the chaotic origin bloodline creature. Luo Feng only took some scraps and gave most of it to Morosa. Yes, thank you, master. You were so good to me. Morosa's eyes were full of greed and passion, and he could hardly hold back. Luo Feng asked, "Are you sure you can reach the second level of God King this time?" "Definitely. I can feel that this part of the corpse material will help me much more than 10 second-level God King corpses." Morosa was very sure. "I will probably have accumulated a lot of knowledge in the God King level 2 stage. Okay, after you break through, I want to see what a second-level God King world beast can do," Luo Feng said, waving his hand. "Go to your own level of space and slowly absorb and digest it." The numerous corpse materials and Morosa were moved together to Morosa's exclusive first-floor space. "I'm getting closer and closer to the ultimate level." Morosa looked at the huge amount of corpse material in front of him and immediately opened his bloody mouth. The first thing was that countless blood flew into his mouth. Although there was the roaring bloodline will, Morosa didn't care at all. He was not fusing the bloodline, but using the world in his body to devour and digest it thoroughly. Just with a large amount of blood rushing into the world in his body, Morosa felt as if the world had been greatly replenished, and its growth rate increased rapidly.